Hi everyone, I'm Irma from Performing Arts Forum. It's absolutely brilliant to see so many of you here today for this marketing forum. Delivering these kind of events is really important to us, and it's really important that we bring you all together. So great to see you here. And I'm now going to hand over to Heather.
Uh, Katie, you're on mute.
Do you want me to share the slides or are you going to share the slides?
Which would you prefer?
Probably you, because I'm not a great person with
Slide
technology.
sharer. Cool. Okay, brilliant.
Thank you. And then you can run them. Thank you. So,
Yeah,
hello
sure thing.
everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Katie Rains from Indigo, and I'm here with my lovely associate Heather. We come as a package these days.
We
Um,
do.
to talk about audiences for what you all do. And I think this session is about, obviously, those of you who came to the gathering will have seen us share some of this data before. And today is really about us trying to work out how we learn from each other and work together to tackle some of the things that we identified in that data. So the first thing we're going to look at is the evidence. So we, working with Performing Arts Forum, we've developed two tools that we're using to inform this. Box office data analysis, which Heather does, basically taking some information from your box office systems and then aggregating it so that we can see what the state of audiences is according to box office data. And then post-show surveys, which quite a few organisations have started doing this year. So we're able to show you some of the things that audiences are saying through the post-show surveys. So together they form a really interesting picture. So quick look at the sort of data that we get out of each. So next slide, please, Heather. Oh, is it going on? It's not moving on. There we are. Yeah. So this is an example of the box office data. So we can see we look at how many tickets were sold, how many seats you put on sale, the percentage capacity you achieved, ticket income and average price paid. So we're able to see what's going up and down. And then with the survey, the sort of data that we're able to see. Oh, sorry, let me show you those. So tickets sold went up. Where are we going? I think it's got a mind of its own, Heather. There we go. Yes, so tickets sold went up. Seats put on sale was about the same. Percentage capacity went up. Gross ticket income went up, and the average price paid went down slightly. So overall, it's quite an encouraging picture. But we're going to dig into some of this.
I mean, we really must remember when we're talking about the challenges we face, just how far we've come since 2022. So, these are amazing figures, but we're still facing these big challenges. So, yeah, that's where we are for this session.
Great. And then the sort of data that we get from the surveys, although there's a lot more than this, is kind of how many people are first timers to the organisation, how many people, what percentage of people travel from a very local or have travelled further, the age profile, demographics, that kind of stuff. So as well as we've got some really interesting figures on their attitudes to the programme and how well you've delivered doing what you're doing. So again, we'll come and have a look at those a bit later. So,
and I think it's worth seeing that figure at the top. We've got 5,000 surveys. So this is really solid evidence.
Yeah. So what's the challenge, Heather? Oh, can't hear you.
It has got a mind of its own. At the gathering, we identified a triple whammy, really. They're small changes, but together they add up to a kind of unnerving trend. And I think our big task this year, all of us, is to try and resolve this triple whammy. So the first time ticket buyers is down by 3%. The people we've kept from the previous year overall is down by 5%. And the proportion coming twice, more at least twice, is up by 1%. That's not right. It's the people who are coming to less than 2 events is up by 1%. So we've got 3 small changes that add up to a really big change. And the one I think we want to focus on, because Katie and I both think it's the one that we can fix most easily, is this thing about the people only coming once. So if half of the people who came just once had come back to one more event with one other person, we would have, as a group of 41 venues participating in Audience Insights, made an extra 5.5 million euros. So, you know, the impact of solving this problem is really, really big. And I think we really need to look at what the causes are. We've got 77% of ticket buyers across all the participating audiences who bought tickets just once. And the trouble is that if they've been just once, they're half as likely to come back the following year. And we are all in the same ballpark. The 2 venues with the lowest percentage of people coming just once, you know, there is a difference, but they still have got 68% coming just once. So if we all can tackle this, we'll make a very big difference.
So I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, why aren't people coming back? And I think there's a few reasons that we could hypothesize for that. One could be simply that our data is quite dirty and we haven't deduped our data, so it looks like people are coming once and then they're coming once and then they're coming once, because we haven't actually merged those records together. So that's one reason that it might be looking as if we've got more people attending once than we actually have. The second reason could be the cost of living crisis. So obviously that's affecting how everybody's behaving. Third hypothesis is, did they have a bad experience? Is that why they're not coming back? The fourth one, it could be because we can't communicate with them. If you haven't got the relevant box ticked to be able to talk to them and be able to send them more things about more shows and events, and you can't talk to them, how are they going to know what you've got on? And therefore, it's going to be harder for them to come back. And then the fifth reason could be we're just not persuading them enough that it's worth giving up their time and their money to spend time with us. So let's have a think about these possible reasons and find whichever of those it is, try and find some fixes for them. So Heather, is it to do with deduping data?
Well, it could be because if we put rubbish into either of our beautiful shiny tools, we'll get rubbish out again. However, you can usually tell from the data whether you have got a problem with deduping. So customers can't be bothered to sign into their accounts, so inevitably we end up with more bookings from them with a different customer record. So we should be deduping our data probably roughly once a month on an ongoing basis, you know, little bits here, little bits there. Everybody's got their camera turned off, but if you are sort of in the vicinity, if you could turn it on and just sort of stick your hands up if you have a box office team who know how to run deduping routines.
You do hands up.
Does your box office team know how to run deduping routines? That's pretty much most people. It's interesting. We've had such a changeover of box office staff across the sector that we have got a couple of venues who participated in Audience Insights where it was really, really clear that there was a deduping issue. They were both Ticketsolve users. They just got Ticketsolve to do a mass dedupe and then reran their reports. And actually things looked a lot more chirpy as a result, you know, that actually their retention was better. So I think we would know if it was an issue just from looking at the figures that we extracted. If you're in doubt, try extracting the audience insight reports again for the past 6 months or something, and see what they tell you, if actually it is an issue. So yeah, I am pretty convinced that we're all pretty squeaky clean.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not that then, or if it is that, it's probably a handful of people maybe. And it's actually, if you haven't deduped your database, it's a really quick win because your first timers will reduce. So do it because it's great. And then Heather will give you a gold star, which is obviously what we're all trying to get. Okay, so second one. So is it about the cost of living crisis? So if we can quickly look at the value for money slide, Heather. So it could be the cost of living crisis, but one thing that audiences did say is that they think tickets offer great value for money. So when we asked them in the survey on the next slide there, you can see that tickets came out as really good value for money, 4.3 out of 5, better value than any of the other things. So it could be that they're coming less frequently, but that when they are coming, they're seeing it as very good value. So maybe they're picking and choosing a bit more because of the cost of living. But they're certainly not telling us that the tickets are poor value for money or that the experience is poor value for money. So I think it's worth bearing that in mind. Now, thank you, Heather. I think we've got Rebecca from the Seamus Ennis Arts Centre on the call. Rebecca, where are you? Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So you increased your ticket prices. You put on lots more events, and you sold more tickets compared to 2019, and you still managed to reduce the percentage of people coming only once. So to what extent do you think pricing has had an impact on how often your audience is coming?
I think it's less to do about the pricing and more to do about the value. And like the audience have said, it's, they didn't have an issue with the pricing of the tickets. And again, adding that value, it all comes down to the communication with your audience.
So you don't think that you're seeing people being price resistant particularly?
Not particularly. We've never had any feedback with regards to pricing, certainly. So I don't think that would be a concern.
That's very encouraging. And how have you managed to get people coming back more frequently, do you think? What's been the key to that?
There's a few things, to be honest, that's really been key to that. And again, it is all about that value and communication with your customers. So, for instance, if you could cast your mind back to the last week, and just think about a time when you communicated with your audience. And I bet that when you spoke to them, it was to sell them a gig. So when you think about it, if those marketing styles were a person, it would be the equivalent of having a friend that only spoke to you when they wanted something, or like someone sliding into your DMs that you've never spoken to for years, trying to sell you something that you don't even need. And I think that supporting, developing, maintaining the arts begins with having respect for the audience, without whom none of this would even be possible. So to me, communication with your audience starts long before an event is even programmed. I started with the Seamus Ennis Arts Centre in 2022. So I'd like to just share a few of the basic things that we've done since then that can be implemented by anyone, and it will help to increase your audience participation. So I'll just go through a few of the things that we did. Building and maintaining a clear brand with your audience, and being clear about who you are and what value you can bring to your audience is the first step to getting people through the door. clear branding's more than just having a logo. It's about really finessing your commercial personality and visually capturing that to create an instant recognition across everything that you do. So if you think from color palettes to tone of voice, what do you want your audience to think when they see you? For us, we capture our vibrant venue and a diverse range of offerings through really bold colors and a little bit of a cheeky tone. And we want our audience to feel really immersed in everything long before they even decide what to see on the stage. And we carry this brand through all of our platforms, from our website right through to our print materials. Because images and things that people see, they impact emotions much more powerfully than what words do. So if you can't see your venue's brand in anything and everything that's put out, then people aren't thinking about your venue. And that makes it nearly impossible to build any relationship or any brand loyalty or return participation. And being personable. So people don't buy goods and services. They buy relationships, they buy stories, and they buy magic. And people seek more than just a financial transaction. They desire a relationship with the brands that they're supporting. So building strong and lasting communications with your customers is absolutely vital for repeat business. And being personable is as simple as this. Instead of copying and pasting the bio from an artist, think about connecting with your audience. You aren't selling tickets for a band. You're telling people why seeing the band in your venue is something that they're not going to want to miss. And this is especially true, I suppose, in the current climate. Your message should really just answer one simple question, and that's, why would I want to spend my money on you? I mean, every customer communication should, in its basic form, have the following formula, and that's, what is it? What can I expect? How will this be different with you? And it's about giving them value, not a pitch. And you need to make your audience feel really special from the very start, because let's face it, without an audience, there is no show. So ways which we do this is by thinking of ways that we can elevate every show, from something as simple as adding a signature cocktail to decorating a room to fully immerse your audience. It's the little things that you can do to elevate each visit. It's a show, it's not a show that keeps an audience coming back. It's an experience. And marketing is all about just that. It's about the reverse engineering and taking a step back and looking at what we've done and developing growth by building on our previous experience. And the best marketing strategy is to be authentic. Listen to your audience. Email is the only audience that you own. These customers are the ones who have chosen to set up a direct line of communication with you, and they don't rely on any third party to hear about you. So you build a following on your socials, but you nurture that audience on your email. And value your connections. What's in it for them if they join your email list? I mean, can we expect someone to subscribe to an emailing list and just stay there just to be bombarded with sales pitches of upcoming events that are just sent en masse? You know, communication is really a two-way street. And as venues, we can't expect to give a positive customer experience if we don't know how our customers are feeling. So setting up even pre-show reminders to let them know that, you know, you're looking forward to welcoming them, letting them know where to go, where to park, or any other specific show reminders makes them feel valued before they even walk through the door. After every event, you want to know how they're feeling and, you know, how their evening was, how was the show, how did they find it? So an invitation to give feedback and even just a thank you for joining us is just a simple, easy show of appreciation. What does this do? It not only shows that you care about your audience, but it builds that two-way communication channel. and essentially then a brand loyalty with your audience. At the Seamus Ennis Arts Centre, we welcome back a lot of return customers. We really pride ourselves on that service with a smile and through our clear and consistent brand messaging. Everyone knows that a show at the Seamus Ennis Arts Centre is done with a unique twist, which not only keeps things fresh and exciting, but the audience also know that they're going to be looked after and feel valued from the moment that they walk through the doors. And these feelings of validation and excitement, they can't just be measured in our numbers, but they can be seen in our amazing reviews, which we work really hard to maintain and engage with to keep all of our audience members just feeling as valued as they should be. So I suppose just to wrap it up, all relationships are about give and take. And if you take the time to be clear about who you are and what makes you unique, and take the time to be personable and think about how you can bring value to your visitors, and take the time to make sure you always deliver the best experience and listen and learn from your customers. And in return, your audience will give you so much more. So I really hope that in a small way that inspires you to think about ways which you can just add a little bit of value to your venue to keep all of your amazing audience members coming back time and time again. Thank you so much.
Oh, Rebecca, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. It's really good. I love the idea of elevating the experience by adding a twist, adding something that they're not expecting. And it's clear to me that that kind of living all of that authenticity and that welcome and everything is as much part of the brand as being consistent with the look and feel and the, how it looks when you're communicating with people online and stuff. So it just sounds brilliant, doesn't it, Heather?
Oh, I love the idea of reverse engineering as a way of working all of that out for yourself. How do you build a relationship? Well, reverse engineer. That's fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
I am inspired, Rebecca.
Good.
And the numbers do tell the story, because you have got fewer first timers and you have sold more tickets. So the numbers are absolutely backing all of that up.
Thanks.
Yeah. And Carl, your numbers back up, I think, what Cork Midsummer are doing. I mean, it's really weird because you've just had your 2024 festival, but we're still looking back at 2023. So I just think it'd be really interesting to kind of see how your figures for 23 impacted on 24, because you had this amazing year in 23 where your percentage capacity went up by 55%. Hallelujah. Even though you did whack up your prices by a lot. So how did that impact on your pricing for 24?
Yeah, well, I suppose, the first thing to say is always that in a festival context, we're always a bit of an outlier in terms of that we don't have a consistent capacity. We don't have a consistent X, Y, and Z. It depends very much on the program year to year, but obviously we're always conscious of those things as well. And like definitely pricing is one that we've been thinking about for years now, even before COVID, but certainly since COVID, into the sort of a cost of living kind of increases that we're looking at the moment, even if things are tapering off. And one of the things that we try and be conscious of, and it came up actually explicitly in 24, but was certainly something we were thinking of in 23, is that any ticket price is inaccessible to somebody. So, across the board, like even if we have something that's ranging, like I think a third of our program this year is free, up to maybe 30, 35 at the top level for kind of one of the higher prices. But like at every point, those are inaccessible prices, even the free things, because they might be inaccessible because of location or time or whatever else it might be. So we're kind of conscious across the board that ticket pricing is not just a matter of going like, well, we're bringing down the ticket prices and therefore it's more accessible. It's a kind of a holistic approach to it. So some of the kind of approaches we've taken to it have been focused as well then around not undervaluing the work either. We certainly have seen and we know that there can be a lean towards reducing ticket prices, but we're very conscious that like going too far in that direction can undervalue the work and undervalue the experience. And I think we feel as well that it leads to the audience's having an initial bias towards a work before they experience it potentially. So it is something we're conscious of. And then in terms of driving, we did increase some of our prices, as you mentioned, in 23, which led to an average increase kind of across the board. Again, with that view towards, you know, you're not just paying for the performance you're seeing, but you're paying for the previous 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years of work that has led to this moment for this artist, or for the previous 2 years of touring, or whatever it might be. But we do have, I mean, particular things that have worked really well for us, first of all, which is we have an early bird ticket pricing, which we've done since 2021. So at the launch of the festival program, everything has a €10 ticket available for it. Now, these are limited by quantity in agreements with every company or venue that we're working with. But, you know, for those who are savvy enough, or those who are particularly in need, they know that they can go to our festival website on the first day of the launch of the program and access tickets for something that may be €35 normally, but it'll also be available for €10 on that day. And that has spoken to a lot of different segments of our audience in lots of different reasons why. People who go to multiple events and who want kind of some recognition of that, but also people who may be unsure about coming back to the festival and aren't necessarily confident in taking what they perceive as a risk with their hard-earned cash, but it's less of a risk if it's for €10. And I think that's made a big impact on audiences as well. And it's also made a big impact for our conversations with audiences about if there is any pushback around prices, which, to be honest, there rarely is. But if there is, we can point back and say, well, look, in 25 or 26 or 27, whenever you decide to come back to the festival, on day one, get in there quick, you'll get whatever you want for €10. Like, that's not going away. We know that's fixed. That's staying in place now. And on the same bracket, I think then as well, we have a very successful artist tickets program as well, which we extend across anyone working in the festival. Same as the early birds, limited amount by quantity. And we find that this boosts our audiences within the kind of artistic community within Cork as well, who potentially wouldn't be able to see as much of the work as they might like to otherwise. And effectively what those do then, those pricing structures are subsidized then by our higher ticket pricing. We know we have a large segment of our audience, you know, a good chunk of our audience is significantly above the average industrial salary in Ireland. And they're happy and willing to pay the higher prices, which effectively then, as I say, subsidize the lower pricing that we've been kind of offering as well. So it's kind of, I suppose, that across the board angle and that across the board aspect of considering kind of how we're going to price things going forward, and then also having consistency pricing within pricing levels then as well. So we have a very clear pricing structure in our heads at least, which doesn't always work out on paper because of deals with companies or venues, but in our heads we have a sort of a emerging artist pricing level, mid-career level, and an established or kind of international artist level as well. And those 3 tiers are very much reflected in the overall pricing structure within the festival as well. So again, we think audiences respond to that. They know a certain amount of like, well, if the festival is saying something is worth this much in cash, then it's of X standard or Y standard, or it's something new or it's something experimental if it's at the lower level or whatever it might be. So I think that has made a huge impact on kind of the appearance of our programming, of our pricing, I should say. And again, going back to that point as well, I think a significant point that we don't really put too much focus on, but which we're quite proud of, is that something like a third of our program is free and completely open to participation and engagement by members of the public for free, no booking required or registration required or whatever it might be. And again, we feel that that's a good offer in terms of balancing out anything that might be of a higher prices as well. And there is an element of audience training in that as well, as much as it sounds kind of mad, but like we've slowly been getting up to the point of increasing our prices. And last year was a bit of a gamble, but I mean, we had a huge event last year, which was at the top end, which was Sun and Sea, which was an internationally acclaimed, globally recognized event that was come to Cork and nowhere else in the country. So there was a merit there that our audiences recognized because they're savvy enough to say, well, we get why this is of a certain price, you know. So yeah, so I mean, those are some of the kind of baselines of our pricing ideas anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's really useful, Conor. Thank you. I mean, it's really interesting how your conversation about pricing strategy has kind of hit on some of the things that Rebecca talked about it's tied up with your brand. It's tied up with your relationship with your audience. It's part of that audience relationship building.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, amazing. By the way, on the chat, Neve has put in some very useful thoughts about her experience with deduping, which is worth just having a look at. So that would be superb. Brilliant. Thank you, Connell. We'll come back to you later, I think. So yeah, Katie, the next one on the list was, did they have a bad experience? Oh.
Well, this is what's very odd, you see. So if you don't mind sharing those slides again, Heather, I think there's a couple on here that are quite useful. So in our post-show surveys across, I think it's 13 organisations so far that were taking part in this data that we're showing you, they're seeing you're very good value for money. So 4.3 out of 5 on your tickets, as we saw before. They're having a great experience. If we show the next slide, so we asked them how about the staff. So 4.7 out of 5 your staff are getting on average, and they think the productions are great, 4.6 out of 5. So it's not that they're not coming back because they're not liking what you're doing. There's some other reason why they're not coming back. And I think part of that could be because, as we saw from the marketing permissions data that Heather pulled, there's actually a lot of you just don't have permission to talk to a large proportion of your audience. I think it's something like, we were only able to talk to 4 in 10, Heather, was that about right? Yeah, so I think 6 out of 10 of your bookers, you're not getting permission to talk to. And therefore, of all your bookers, you can only talk to 40% of them. So it's not very surprising then that they're not coming back because they don't know what you're doing. So,
and for some organisations, a handful of organisations, it was less than 10%, which is scary.
Which is really annoying because you do all that work to get those audiences in, spend all that money and that time, and you attract them and they book a ticket and then you can't talk to them again, which is really frustrating. So if we welcome Rebecca back again, you have managed to treble the percentage of people for whom you have permission to talk to between 2019 and 2023. So in other words, you've got 3 times as many people as you had to talk to as you did in 2019. So how have you done that?
A chatterbox. No, joking. No, we always, like, again, going back to that adding value and telling people, like, join our mailing list. This is what you're going to get if they phone up. And we still have a lot of our audience phoning for tickets. Not everybody is online as much as you'd like them to. So again, just making sure that everybody's aware is the first thing off your list. You're saying to them, do you want to join our, well, I'll opt you into our marketing emails. Don't worry, we're not going to bombard you, but if there is something of interest, we'll let you know. And it's giving them that. We're not sending you loads of, spam. We're not sending you all these different things, but we're going to nurture you and we're going to tell you if there's something that you want to see, and you're going to be the first to hear about it because you're important. And it's giving them that message. As well as what we do have as well is we're making really good use of QR codes. We have them on recently keep cups that we've got in our bar to go in with our ethics, and just because we are in the countryside, trying to bring all that into fruition, and people are scanning that. Do you want to know what's next up? Do you want to know what we've got going on? Join the mailing list. And it's just about keeping that communication open with your customers, I suppose, and letting them know how they're going to benefit from it. And with that kind of narrative, everybody has been more than happy, to join that, to want to be part of that conversation and to almost feel as though they're included in you going forward. I mean, as a business, you're always going forward. So make them feel as though they're included in that growth, and they're not going to say no or opt out. In fact, our emailing list, we very rarely have an unsubscribe. Now, we wouldn't be emailing them. We'd maybe be sending maybe a newsletter that they look forward to. In fact, I had an email last week because somebody said, oh, this is sold out and we never got an email from you. Do you know? So they, you know yourself. So you're kind of that way where they're expecting you to one-on-one tell them about it. And it's keeping in with that, again, in with that brand of, you know, we're a small venue, we're your people next door. Do you know, you can come in and you can chat with us. And they feel as though they're almost not talking to a business or talking to a center or a venue. They feel as though they're talking to you. Do you know that venue is now a person, it has a voice, and that's what they get, and they're more than happy for that.
Rebecca, I've had a situation a couple of times where I've listened to box office staff, and they've been very reluctant to. In fact, one person actually said, "Oh, you won't want to get any emails from us," when they'd got to the bit where they were supposed to ask about marketing permissions. How did you get the box office team on board to ask people and encourage people like this?
We're very lucky that we're a very, very small team. So our box office staff, they're very friendly. And I think, again, it's just letting them take the time with the staff. That's what I would suggest. Tell them this is who's coming. They want to hear about this. As long as they know, I suppose, the value that you're giving to it. It's not like an emailing list, join an emailing list, and we're going to send you an email and we're going to hope that you buy a ticket, but we don't know who we're getting in touch with. We just want your money. That's not the message that you send out. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of the mailing lists are. And I think then when staff are taking that approach to it, they almost don't agree with that method. And that's what's holding them back. So I think if you were to change that mindset with the staff first, it really starts in-house, that change in attitude. And by changing that and telling them, actually, you're doing somebody a disservice by not allowing them to be part of this, because then you don't have the benefits of it. You know, you don't have that two-way communication channel. You're essentially taking that off of that member, you know. And as long as you're keeping your promise to them that, look, we're always going to give you valuable content and you're going to hear about this before it goes on sale, or we're going to give you the heads up. People want to be part of that. People want to feel special. So I think it's going to start in that instance by changing the mindset of the staff members. And again, that is something that can be easily done if you have everybody, you know, as excited to shoot for the same goal. You know, you drive forward together as a team, whether you're box office or marketing or anybody. But essentially, your audience is the focus.
Fantastic. Well, Heather and I are old enough to remember when people used to pay to be on mailing lists because they valued the information that they were getting, and the internet didn't exist then because we are that old. That, you know, you didn't have this access to information that people can just get so easily now, but it does have a value. And I think you're absolutely right, Rebecca, to think about it. What's the value to the customer from being on that list, rather than we want this data, we must have this data so that we can bombard them with stuff. So I think that's really important. The other thing to say on this is that I know quite a few of you on the call were part of our marketing permissions scheme that we did last year, was it? I think it was last year, wasn't it? Where we moved quite a few of you across from using consent, where people say, yes, I would like to join the mailing list, over to something called legitimate interest, which is we're going to send you stuff unless you tell us not to. And I think the organisations that have made that switch, Heather, have seen quite big leaps in their marketing permissions. Is it about double what it was before? Yeah. So if any of you haven't done that and you're interested in doing that, there are resources on the Performing Arts Forum website to help support you do that, and there are people in venues who have been through that, which I'm sure, you know, would be happy to talk to you about their experiences in doing it, because that's probably the quickest win It takes a bit of work to do, but it's not insurmountable at all. And it's once you've done it, you're then collecting twice as many permissions typically. So if you haven't done that, then talk to us, talk to the Performing Arts Forum. We can point you to the right resources. The other thing, just a plug for, if any of you aren't doing the post-show surveys and you would like to do them, they're free, Indigo Share surveys, and we're doing a demo next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. If you'd like to come and find out more about that, I'll stick it in the chat. So that's just my flag for that. So Heather. Oh, can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Heather.
Sorry, I've got a delay on my mouse pad. When I click, it doesn't happen for ages. Anyway, yes, so Irma and Katie have just put links to resources into the chat, so it's there. Brilliant. So our final possible reason is, are we failing to persuade them? Is it just simply that our messaging isn't being persuasive enough? Is it that our messaging just isn't getting attention? Is it not reaching people? So I'm going to ask Maeve McGowan, who's the program manager at the Hawkswell, who was the marketing manager but is now program manager, to just tell us how come they have the lowest level of onces of any organization participating in Audience Insight, which is a hell of an achievement. How do you persuade people to come back, Maeve?
Hi, Heather. Thank you. Well, I wish I could give you an easy answer. There's probably loads of reasons. So I think what I might do is tell you some of the things we do. And I know most organizations are doing lots of those things. There might be a couple of things we're doing that might inspire you. And I suppose, yeah, what I found very interesting from the Performing Arts Forum and all of this fabulous research that has come back to us, you talk about the reason people come to our venues is because of the production or the performer. That's the main reason they come. And the second reason is the social experience. So that research has backed up what we all know. So obviously the program is hugely important and people are coming to see what's on in the venue, and they'll come back if they see what they like and if there's more of that on offer. And I suppose we try to program, we have a bit of repeat programming. We know what our customers like, so we're putting the shows that people like back on again, while also trying to reach out to diverse audiences in the community and attract new people. So it's that balancing act of repeat acts, trying to get big acts, big names in, shows that are going to do well financially, but then shows that also showcase our local artists. So it's all of that is something that we work hard on. And engagement is a really big thing for us. We run a lot of workshops at our venue as well. And I think you'll find in Sligo, an awful lot of people have been on the Hawkswell stage. So while they love coming in to watch shows, people are always involved in productions at the Hawkswell, or they'll come and they'll do an acting workshop, or they'll be in our Sing for the Hell of It pop-up choir nights. We have a community orchestra. So these are people who played an instrument when they were younger and want to get back playing again. And they come in once a month on a Sunday. So we have a huge community that's built up from people who participate in the arts as well as come to watch our shows. And I think that might be something that feeds into sales across our audiences, because people come to the venue all of the time. Another example is we have a group called Cultural Companions, and these are older people who come to the venue once a month for a coffee morning. We have a staff member who coordinates that group, and we let people know what's coming up, and they are arranged to come together in groups. We also have some of them performing in a free lunchtime event soon. So we're very connected. Our community is very connected. People are in all the time. And I think that creates a kind of environment where people come more, you know. I really think that's one of the things. I guess in terms of social experience, we have a fabulous team, and everybody loves working. The team who work there love the Hawkswell. Everybody feels very much part of it, and I think when people come in, they like to stay on after a show and have a drink and connect. So that's a huge, big thing as well. And in terms of our marketing, we've tried to build relationships over the years with people. Like one thing we set up, and I know when we set it up, my kids were very young. They were 5 and 8, and this was a kids club. And with consent, we were recording the age of people's children, and we were sending messages and reminders out about kids camps or shows that were coming up that they might be interested in. We'd follow along. Now my kids are 11 and 14, so they've moved off into kind of a teen group. So that kind of marketing where we're letting people know things that are really tailored to them and they've given consent to. We have a music club and a theatre club, and we send reminders out. So if we have a play coming up, you'll get a reminder that that play is on that week. And again, you can opt out of that at any time. What other things do we do? I suppose you mentioned the legitimate interest there a while ago, and we were a part of that as well, where we what we started doing since we've joined up to that is that we will reach out. For example, if Michael Murphy is back with 3 of his plays in September, so as soon as we programmed that and announced it, we emailed everybody who had come the last time to let them know. And we were doing a lot of that actually for shows that sell out. And what we're hearing from a lot of people is actually the complaints that we've been getting have been from people saying, that show was sold out before I got to hear about it. So our response from our box office is sign up to our email list. And that's kind of what's happened. I guess it's busy. We have a lot of shows. That's the other thing. We have a lot of shows. We have a lot of workshops. We've constantly people in the venue. One thing I thought was really interesting from the research at the Performing Arts Forum as well was that people are highlighting the importance of posters and brochures. And social media is obviously so important, but our brochure is just like our bread and butter. You know, it's really important to us. And as soon as it goes out, our sales start to shoot up. Again, we've people ringing us saying, I got this brochure in the post and most of the shows are sold out. So when that happens, we are saying, that is a concern because we want people to come to everything, but that's just a phenomenon that's happened with the way everybody's buying online now, and shows are going up for sale much quicker than we can produce the brochure. But I do think when you have your shows on display in the venue as well, everywhere on posters, people come in and they'll find out about things that way, and it'll even start a conversation. Somebody will say, I saw that last year, we should come to it. So they're all small little things, but I think collectively, it's probably what's given that result for us.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that, you're giving people multiple reasons to be in the venue and just be there. And I love the cultural companions thing, because one of the biggest reasons people stop going to the theatre is because the person that they used to go with is unwell, or they've died, or they're not able to come anymore. And so they've lost their companion, be it their life partner or someone else they used to come with. But they would still be wanting to come. So I think that's a brilliant, brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's a lovely program. We've been running it now for about 4 years, and we've a staff member who's dedicated to that, and she knows everybody. People feel special when they come in and somebody's there to meet them and ask about them, and lots of new friendships have formed. And we have a program as well called the Artist's Way now for artists once a month, where artists come in and meet, and they're following the Artist's Way, that book, as part of the program as well. So I think of trying to get people into the venue and form relationships together can be a really nice way to deepen that sense of community.
Well, because then they feel like it's their venue, don't they, as well? And they've got some sort of ownership over it. And then they look for excuses to spend time there, rather than you constantly just pushing stuff at them. They just want to spend more time there. So that's brilliant.
Do you have a cafe, Maeve, at the Hawkswell?
Unfortunately, no. We'd love a cafe. We have a bar, and the bar is open, obviously, in the evenings. Where we are, I mean, a lot of you hopefully were in the Hawkswell for the Performing Arts Forum. So we're a little bit outside of town, we're beside the cathedral. So in terms of a cafe, I don't know if we would get footfall during the day. But it is something we would love to have with maybe a little bit, if we had a little bit more space as well.
Yeah. Both you and Rebecca and Conal have been really inspirational. I am slightly terrified because you do so much. Just remind us how many people you each have working in your organization. I mean, it's not because you've got teams of thousands, is it?
Well, I'll speak first just because I'm unmuted. We've got 5 full-time staff, and we have about 9 part-time staff then who are all on community employment schemes, and then we've bar staff who are casual.
Oh gosh, so not huge. Rebecca, how about you?
We have about 4 full-time members of staff, and then we have probably the same again, 4 or 5 part-time members of staff.
Cool, thank you, Conal.
Yeah, we've about the same, 4 full-time staff members and then 1 or 2 seasonal staff members.
Right, gosh, wow. You must be very, very busy. Good grief. Conal, let's come to you. So 2023, good grief. Half the number of events, half the number of seats on sale compared to 2019, half the choice, but your percentage capacity was up by 55%, and you didn't lose any of your more frequent attenders. The proportion coming 2 or more times stayed the same, and your continuing ticket buyers from the previous year went up. So less choice, more engagement. How do you do it, and how do you build on that this year?
I mean, yeah, like Maeve said, I'd love to be able to tell you exactly what we did, but you know, it's a weird alchemy of something, I guess, where it sort of happens and you're hoping lightning strikes twice. But certainly we have been moving towards, I mean, our director, Lorraine, who's fantastic, would be moving towards a program of kind of quality over quantity, I think, in a lot of respects. So, I mean, there is a certain programmatic element to all of this. Things we've discussed before, like, you know, we have shifted in terms of how we program or how we display our program. Things are categorized by sort of thematic ideas as opposed to by art form. And our audiences have really responded to that. So we don't have our theatre section, music section, dance section, you know, whatever it might be. We have brand new, which is, or this year was now new, which is sort of across any art form, across any level of experience, but things that are sort of new and exciting and contemporary and things that, you know, you're not going to get a chance to see anywhere else. And then we made another strand, which was on the street, which is everything that's happening around the city during the festival across different art forms. We had Future Proof, which is very much around new and experimental artists, younger artists trying things out, things that might be a bit more of a risk. And our audiences have really responded to that. And it's been, in one particular way that's been effective, is going to audiences who are constantly looking for recommendations. Well, if you like that, you'll like this, in various capacities, whether that's through the box office, through targeted emails, follow-up emails, reminder emails, whatever it might be. People's, you know, kind of asking people to jump from one event to another has been particularly kind of useful in that sense. And also what we've been able to do with that as well is, because a lot of our program is partnership based, it allows for a lot of cross promotion as well, actually. So we've been able to drill into that cross promotion using our partners, their databases, their networks, their connections, whether those are other artistic partners or whether, like, there would be in a lot of our participation strand of programming, there would be a lot of community or social enterprise partnerships where we're using those kind of audiences as well. And I mean, I think that speaks to a bigger strategy we've had as well, which we always talk about, meeting our audiences where they are. So not just relying on the standard communication tools that we have, such as social media and emails, you know, which I'll come to in a second, I suppose, but like always going like, well, what about those audiences that we want to capture that aren't on our standard kind of communication tools? Or maybe there are existing audiences, but we don't have their data for any reason, or we don't have them on our mailing list for some reason, or they're not on any social media. And that's generally about going to, again, to the sort of those hubs and looking at their patterns and looking at their habits and going like, well, where do they get their information from? Where do they go? Where do they gather? And how can we access those areas as well? And that's something we've definitely focused on a lot, particularly because we now have a very long established participation and engagement strand of programming. And a lot of that is about going, or rather not assuming that, you know, if you build it, they will come, and really just going to where those audiences are gathering. So I think that's a big part of it as well. I know as well that like from 22 onwards, we've had a big change in how we approach language in the festival as well, in terms of how we're using language to contextualize events or describe events or promote them, both in terms of our external communications, but also in terms of how we're talking about them ourselves as a team, and kind of getting a more familiarity with that language as well, and having that sort of filter down to our box office teams and our front of house teams as well, in terms of how they're promoting and pushing events to other people, that it's a more naturalistic way of happening for them. And again, even in terms of our brochure, we've developed a very consistent format or template for how we add text to our brochure. It's a very straightforward 3-paragraph structure. And that's not to say that we're, you know, dumbing down text or language in any sense, but it's just about completely, or rather always being the audience advocate, I suppose, in that point, and saying like, well, if an audience member is reading this text, why would they bother coming, you know, or what's the engagement for them? You can always see why the artist thinks the text will work, but why would an audience come to see it based on this text? It's not always a no or a yes, but it's just about having that sort of advocacy for the audience reading that language, which I think has been really effective as well. And we certainly, this now would probably be our 3rd year using that sort of system that we've developed, and it's become really, really useful and really effective, we think, as well. Certainly, like email, as you know, both Maeve and Rebecca have said, email is definitely a fantastic tool for us as well. We made the shift from informed consent to legitimate interest ourselves a number of years ago, and certainly saw the jump from that basis as well. But with that, we've very much then had to temper the amount of emails we're sending out, how frequent they are, you know, making sure that everything within there is particularly tailored to the audience. And that's why then segmenting our email list has been particularly important as well, kind of refining by what their interests are, what their thematic interests are, what they've come to see in the past, so that they're not getting overloaded. We do see, for every email, no matter how considered or tailored it might be, we do see a drop off from our subscriber base per email that goes out. Now, normally that's balanced by new subscribers coming in and slightly increased by that, but there is certainly a drop off there as well. And we spend a lot of time looking at that data then as well. So looking at, well, who didn't open our most recent email, or who didn't open our program launch, you know, email in each May, or who unsubscribed and why would they? And normally you can pick out some interesting information from those kind of lists as well, in terms of like, well, we know that person's consistently coming to the festival, but why did they drop off after that email? What didn't click with them? What didn't work? And I suppose the interesting challenge for a festival is that a lot of these opportunities you only get once in your cycle per year. You know, we only have one opportunity to kind of spread the word about our program when it's launched in May, and we've only one opportunity to kind of get things across the line in that very short, sharp shock of a 6-week period. And so I think it's about also then within that, we would talk about embracing the challenges quite a bit. So, for example, one of the bigger challenges we've had in a good number of years was that in 2022, Kirkadurka, who many people here might know, Cork's kind of only long-standing theatre company at that point, decided to close their doors, and that would have removed sort of a cornerstone of our programme. That was a relationship going back, you know, 20 years between the festival and Kirkadurka. And so that was definitely something that from a programming side had to be considered, but also from a communication side, it led to a really interesting opportunity, which was that a lot of our audiences, a significant number of our audiences, came to us saying, well, you know, what's the Kirkadurka show? And meaning, what's the replacement? Or what should I go to if I only ever went, or I always went to the Kirkadurka show? And that allowed us to really offer something new to those audiences and say, well, look, you could try A, B, and C. And 9 times out of 10, they went to the 3 we recommended rather than just picking one, you know, which was really interesting for us to discover that they're really looking for that recommendation, and they want to take a risk, and they want to be challenged in what they're seeing. They want to be given the opportunity to explore something new. So I think that for us has kind of renewed our faith in that sense of challenge and risk, and offering our audiences that opportunity to take that risk as well.
I'm just amazed, all 3 of you. What's striking me about what all 3 of you have said is this closeness between programming and marketing, because you're all thinking about things from the audience's point of view. You're kind of stepping out of your own sphere and stepping into the audience's shoes together and having those conversations together. And that is just so inspiring to hear about. God, I can think of one organization I ever worked with ever where we did that. It's just brilliant. So any questions for Rebecca, Connell or Maeve? Anything you want more information about, anything you want to comment on? I'm pausing. Total silence. Has anyone else found great ways of getting audiences to come back that they'd like to share with us? We would be very grateful for anything any of you have to say. I heard somebody.
Yeah. So you'll be sick of hearing from the Seamus Ennis Art Centre, but I mean, I know everyone spoke about free events a couple of times, but we do a lot of food markets. Now, that's not something that people can do, but we get massive footfall for them. And I know it's not necessarily like, you know, something that we do because it's in our constitution as such, but we are very lucky to have a space out here that we do it in. So, and we will have music on stage when it's going on. But our craft fair Christmas gets, Rebecca will probably know the figures better than me, like with thousands of people through the door. And like we were only just talking earlier on about how, you know, we're going to get all our marketing material, all the posters up so that those people who are coming for free to something completely different, they might not even be engaged with the arts, that's why they're coming. And a lot of them have forgot, like they may have been to us pre-COVID, but they've kind of forgotten about us a little bit. So most people will say, oh, I was there, you know, 15 years ago for an art workshop with my kids or something, and I didn't know you did comedy or something. So it's just, but you're getting them through the door for something. You're tricking them basically to coming to an art center. So yeah, trick your attendees.
Oh, I have some. Can you hear me? Yeah. Neve from the Civic in Tala here. What we found working, I'd love to say it was a lovely email marketing campaign or a nice piece of print that we did, but it's back to programming. We have started to experiment with different times of day in our program. So lunchtime theatre is really working for us, and we had the opportunity to work with our studio. We have a studio space, so trialed it there and then extended into our main space, and actually some daytime performances are outselling the evening performance, and that's tied into our demographic as well. You know, older people feeling more comfortable coming out during the day perhaps, and accessibility issues, but then also groups of students and different groups that maybe come together easier during daytime as opposed to evening time. So that's really worked. So we're going to try more of that in our autumn season.
That's really interesting, because I've been doing focus groups with audiences earlier on this year and late last year, and a surprising number of people were saying that they find it difficult to come out of the house in the evening. They sit down and then they just don't have the incentive to leave the house, and they were saying that they think it's a knockback from, you know, from COVID, that actually they've lost the habit of going out. So they were saying too that you know, performances at different times would attract them. It's the evening that's the problem. So that's really good to hear, Neve. Wow. Thoughts from other people? What's worked for you, getting people to come back? It's really weird having people's camera turned off, because I can't tell if people are just being shy. Things that have worked for you. Okay, well, we've got some lovely things in the chat, so have a look in the chat, and Irma's recorded this and we'll make this available, because I know I am going to go back and listen to our speakers again, because I don't think I've ever had so much really useful information crammed into 5 minutes before. So thank you hugely to the three of you. That's absolutely superb. There'll be another marketing forum at some point soon. Don't forget the one next week on Wednesday, same time, same place, about the post-show surveys. Certainly the people who've been involved in that have been so enthusiastic about actually hearing what audiences think, hearing about their attitudes so clearly, particularly some of the venues who perhaps feel that they have really good relationships with their audiences. It's another way of hearing what they really think about what's going on. So yeah, Katie, sum up what's kind of been a takeaway for you.
Well, I mean, as always, it's a little bit about data, isn't it? So it's a little bit about making sure that you've got the right data and you've got the permissions to talk to people and that you're deduping your database. And that's, I mean, I love all that stuff, but for some people I get that's quite boring. I think the thing that's come through to me is just about that kind of that relationship building and that taking care of audiences and thinking about it from their point of view and not taking them for granted. I think, particularly in what Rebecca was saying and what Conal was saying about, really understanding those audiences and not just assuming that if you just chuck out an email to them, then they'll book, actually taking that care to think about as if they were coming for a dinner at your own home. It's like, oh, what would they need to know before they come and how should we greet them and how could we surprise them a bit when they get here? And that's kind of that creativity in the way that you're communicating and building that relationship with audiences, I think is really come across really strongly. So I think that's and the whole idea of Maves, of just getting people to use the venue, just getting people into the venue, even if it's not actually for an arts event, making them feel at home in the space and like it's their arts centre. I just think, I know it's easier said than done with limited resources, but all of those things I think are going to really help people feel it's for them, and then I think they will look for opportunities to come back. But I think it's a struggle to get people back, but obviously some people are managing to do it. So let's learn and let's share. Let's keep sharing. If things are working, don't be shy. Tell other people. Blow your own trumpet. Tell us, and we'll tell them if you're too shy to tell people yourselves. Because we all need, there's no shame at all in nicking other people's ideas. Let's share because it will benefit us all. So.
Absolutely. What's your equivalent of the Seamus Ennis Arts Centre food market? Just sheer genius, that. Fantastic. I think, yeah, what struck me is that you've been talking about audiences as real people. This idea of humanizing communications has come across really strongly for me as well. Yeah, absolutely. And the thoughtfulness, thinking about why you're doing things. It's been really, really fascinating. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Anna.
I just want to say thank you so much. It's been just so great I really loved actually hearing from Rebecca and Conal and Maeve. It was just so nice to hear those stories. And just so lovely to bring people together. And yeah, we hope we will be sending on the recording so you can watch it back if you want to, or you could share with colleagues. And in that, we'll also give all the information about the event next week. So you'll have all the logins and everything on that. And we'll also include all that legitimate interest work that we did as well, because I think some people might want to revisit that too. So yeah, and keep in touch with us, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much for
coming.
Thank you very much. Bye.